It's terrific. Well, thank you for pushing that and recognizing that it needed to go to that level. But in addition to being a leader in the service movement, you've also been a terrific social entrepreneur and social innovator, and we're seeing a lot of linkages now between these two movements. You took the Women's Conference to a whole new level, 20,000 people. It's now the premier gathering for women in this country. People know. You've replicated the We Connect program to more than 20 states. You went to Kiva and said, hey, can you do stuff here in America, and got them to do that. Today you built your 31st playground across the state of California. What have you learned about what it takes to not only do service, but be a social innovator, be a social entrepreneur that we all can
Well, I think one of the things I tried to do when I came into this role was approach it as a journalist. Having grown up with two parents who served 24/7, and then I thought, okay, I'm a journalist. There's a lot going on in the Capitol that people don't know about. So if I could approach and take all of these laws that exist to help people that they don't know about, put them all under one roof, use the media to tell that story, partner with the media and all the different forms of media, we can reach a whole new group of people. So I think that one of the things I discovered, certainly in the field of poverty, was that so many of the people in this country who are to benefit, whether it's from a child tax credit, the earned income tax credit, different nonprofits, they don't know that we exist. They don't know that they can apply for automobile insurance, energy saving insurance, the earned income tax credit. They don't know that there are different extraordinary nonprofits that are out there to help them, be it Legal Services for the Poor or any of the organizations that are represented here. And I found that by putting them together, bringing business to the table, government to the table, media to the table, nonprofits to the table, and having them all work together, that the message went out in a different way. And I think in California particularly, and now there are so many different forms of media that are available to everybody in this room. It's no longer, do you have to go to the four major networks? There are communicators on the ground all around you that the nonprofit world, the service world can use to spread their message, to reach people that want to be involved with us but don't know that we exist. I think very often people are working in this field and you're talking to one another and you think everybody knows you're there, and then you go out into the Hmong community or you go out into the Latino community and they've never heard of what you're talking about, and that there are different languages in many ways spoken in these different communities, and to communicate with them through the communications that they use.
I think that's right on the money, and I appreciate you brought up the issue of poverty, and that you've been leading on that as well. What can the service movement do to really take on that issue, and what can we do as in our country? How do we launch a movement to fight poverty as we have this service movement that's growing and growing?
Well, I think we have to somewhat change the face of poverty. I think, I remember I just executive produced a film on my father called The American Idealist, which really went through a lot of,
It's an extraordinary film. It's going to be shown here tonight for those of you, tomorrow night, for those of you who haven't seen it. It's extraordinary.
And it talks about and he talks about how he thought he could alleviate poverty, and how optimistic he was, and people said he was naive. And obviously he gave, and along with President Johnson, a huge effort to do that. But I think that the face of poverty has changed so dramatically. In the last year, the last 2 years, the last 5 years, and there are a lot of programs that exist to help poor people that they don't know about. And we have found here that what seems to work extremely well is connecting, as I said, all the services and putting them in community centers that already exist. So we work with Legal Services for the Poor, for example, and we partner with Intuit, who's given us millions of dollars to develop a website that we bring computers into legal services, and then we connect them not only to lawyers, but also to the earned income tax credit, to the child tax credit, to state credits, to all these different services, so they can do one-stop shopping, so to speak, or one-stop centers, I know, also existing in many places like that. And then we bring in La Opinion, we partnered with them, and they put out 11 million supplements in their communities that are at these neighborhood centers and in churches and different areas to try to spread the word through different mediums. For people who don't have computers, who might not watch television, and we partner with Univision, and we do it in different languages. So constantly trying to think about what haven't we thought of, what message haven't we connected to, and how can we spread it in mediums that we haven't touched and that people are listening to but are not conventional.
So it's a new sort of 21st century approach.
It's I think, kind of journalism, new media meets government, meets nonprofit, meets entrepreneurs, meets business, meets committed volunteers. And one of the things we've learned through the We Connect program is that when we connect poor people, particularly to services, they come back and want to connect other poor people, and they want to be of service because somebody reached out to them, somebody changed their life, and they, in their excitement, they want to then change somebody else's life.
They want to be involved. You kept talking about partnerships, and in the work that you've done, you have built a number of creative and innovative partnerships, whether it's around the Women's Conference, as you mentioned, reaching out to the business community, bringing everybody to the table. What have you learned about what it takes to form effective partnerships and how to think differently? Because a lot of people think it's impossible to make it happen. What advice would you give?
I think everybody in this room probably knows perseverance is just, I think, the number one.
It just doesn't happen automatically.
It just doesn't happen automatically. People often think, oh, well, you can call it, it'll happen automatically. It rarely happens.
Even for Maria Shriver,
yeah.
She has to knock on the door.
I say, people go look at it, I have to say no. I said, that's okay, I'll come back around you the back door. I'll come back around you. Yeah, and I often say to people, it's so much easier for you to say yes because I'm going to become your worst nightmare. So it would be much easier on you to just come with the program now and help me now than just have to deal with me harassing you for this long period.
So you've learned, I mean, you're such a great listener and communicator, but the one word you don't hear is no.
Oh, I hear it a lot. I don't pay attention to it, but I hear it.
Take note of that, folks.
I never pay attention to it. And there's so many exciting, you mentioned Kiva, which is the largest online microlending organization, and we just launched with them here domestically. They're here in San Francisco. And I remember going to visit them, it was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and I said, you know, you're doing all this extraordinary work in all of these other countries. Why can't we do this here in America? And, you know, we can match you with our people who want to volunteer. And they said to me, look, we already have about 1,000 cyber volunteers. And I said, what's a cyber volunteer? And they said, we have people who, in the privacy of their own home, volunteer for us at night, translating people's stories, helping people get up online. They do it in the web while you may be sleeping, or do it all over the world, and we connect them to people in need, and they translate their stories, and they connect them to people in their villages. And I was fascinated by the cyber volunteer that's out there, that's volunteering and never comes into an office and is just waiting to be asked to, you know, fix some accounting papers, translate some stories, do their work from their home through the computer, and connect people to resources to help change their lives. So I think that's also a fascinating new arena.
Right, there's all different kinds of ways people can serve now.
Exactly.
You talked about technology. You've built a tremendous website here, californiavolunteers.org. What do you see the role of technology, and how do we really tap into that power for the service movement going forward?